Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this instruction by Kashyapa Muni has to be understood in totality and not in part or in seclusion. Here what he is talking about is in the Grahastha ashram. So one should not think that without accepting a wife one cannot cross over the oceans of material nishayans. So if somebody takes this instruction only solely, then it may look like that. So he is only talking about Grahastha ashram, that in Grahastha ashram, if one wants to cross over the ocean of material nishayans, then the wife helps like a vessel, just like the sea-going vessels help the travelers to cross over the ocean. Similarly, in Grahastha life, the wife acts like a vessel and helps the husband and the children, everyone, to cross over the oceans of material nishayans. That's how we find in purport, Prabhupada gives a very broad understanding of this verse. Prabhupada is saying cooperation of all four orders of life is very important. So there are four orders in our society. There are brahmacharis, spiritual orders. Then there are grahasthas, there are vanaprasthas, and there are sannyasis. Out of the four, only one section, the grahastha, is allowed to live a household life with the wife and children. And they are busy in doing some kind of work to maintain their family. According to the ideal grahastha life, it is not only that they have to maintain only themselves, it was also required that they should be able to maintain the other three classes of people in the society: the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis. So the grahastha in the four orders of the spiritual order, they were the only one who would be doing some kind of occupation. Other threes are not doing any kind of occupation for making a living. Brahmacharis are not doing some occupation for making a living. Vanaprasthas are not doing any occupation for making a living. Neither sannyasis are doing. So it's only the grahasthas who are doing this. So Prabhupada explains, it's very simple to understand. Say for example, sometimes this question is asked by people, especially our parents do ask this question. Now when we want to go and convince them that I want to join as a full-time devotee, so practically all of us would have faced this question. If everybody becomes devotee, then what happens to the world? If everybody thinks like you, that I have to join the temple as a full-time, then what will happen? How the whole world will run? Or if everybody becomes a brahmachari, then what will happen? Right? So Prabhupada is explaining here, see, neither that happens. We don't find it practical that the whole world will join as a full-time in Krishna consciousness. Very few percentage of people take it as a full time. In practical scenario, that is what Prabhupada is explaining. There are 4 social orders for cooperation in endeavor for liberation from material existence. So there is brahmacharya, the pious student life, household life with a wife, retired life and renounced life. And then Prabhupada is saying, all depend for successful advancement on the householder who lives with a wife. So this is the actually purport of this verse, that householder life, the person who is living with a wife, not only for himself, this ashram of grahastha is essential for other ashramas also, because all other 3 are also dependent for their living on grahastha ashram. On the cooperation of grahastha ashram, the other 3 ashramas are dependent. That has to be understood very clearly. This cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of the institution of the 4 social order and 4 spiritual order of life. The man who lives with the wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of other social orders, brahmacharis, vanaprasthas and sannyasis. So there is a greater responsibility on the grahastha, because he not only has to take care of his life, he has to take care of the lives of brahmacharis in terms of maintenance. In terms of maintenance, he has to take care of his family, and he has to take care of the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas and the sannyasis. So, in terms of maintenance, the other 3 orders are dependent on grahasthas. The man who lives with the wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of other social order, the brahmachari, vanaprasthas and sannyasis. Except for the grahasthas or householder, everyone is supposed to engage in spiritual advancement of life. So this is in a Vedic times. That except for, because grahastha, if he has to maintain his family life, and if he has also to earn for sannyasis, and if he has to make living for vanaprasthas and for brahmacharis, then practically you will not see that he will have so much time for preaching Krishna consciousness, that he may have so much time for practicing so many different rules and regulations of spiritual life. Then one may wonder, then what is there for him to advance in Krishna consciousness? Because Prabhupada is saying here, all other 3s, their whole idea was, their whole life was based practically renouncing all other things, necessities, basic necessities of life, to earn for the basic necessities of life. They have renounced all that, and they would just go and beg from this householder and balance their time, which would have otherwise been utilized for earning their livelihood. They utilize for practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness. So in Vedic society, one may wonder, how would the grahastha advance in spiritual life? Because we are seeing he may not have so much time preaching and practicing all the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada is saying, by this cooperation in the Vedic system, just by doing and helping the other 3 sections of the society, all other orders of the society, whether the spiritual order or the social order, by cooperating with them, by helping them in maintenance, the grahasthas would also advance in spiritual life, just by this cooperation. So that also Prabhupada is explaining. Except for the grahasthas or householder, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life. And therefore the brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyasis have very little time to earn a livelihood. So they have no time for earning their livelihood. They therefore collect alms from the grahasthas, and thus they secure the bare necessities of life and cultivate spiritual understanding. So they spend their time in cultivating spiritual understanding. Grahasthas spend their time in earning their livelihood and earning the livelihood for other orders of the society. And then Prabhupada is saying, by helping the other three sections of society cultivate spiritual values, the householder also makes advancement in spiritual life. This is a very important principle we should all understand. By helping Krishna consciousness, even other people, let us say by donating their money, if somebody is helping the cause of Krishna consciousness, they are also advancing in their spiritual life. You see? That's what Prabhupada is saying. Ultimately, every member of society automatically becomes spiritually advanced and easily crosses the ocean of Nishayans. This is how generally a Vedic society used to be. But we all know, in Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. It's very difficult. We don't find ideal brahmacharis, we don't find ideal sannyasis, we don't find ideal grahasthas, practically no vanaprasthas. Isn't it? So, when the whole society is topsy-turvy, this ideal system of Varnashrama may not fit into. So, in Krishna consciousness, what we follow is called as Devi Varnashrama. That is very essential to understand. What we are following in our Krishna consciousness is Devi Varnashrama. Prabhupada is giving a wonderful example in today's conversation. That is what we should understand. Prabhupada is saying, suppose there is one drama going on. In one drama, somebody is acting as a king. Somebody is acting as a queen. Neither actually he is a king, neither she is a queen. But just to take part in the drama, one is acting as a king, another is acting as a queen. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada is giving the example. One may act by cleaning the temple. One may be sweeping the temple. One may be washing the dishes. Another may be manager. But there is no difference. You see? This has to be understood very, very clearly. In Krishna consciousness, even though actually just like toilet cleaning is not the work of a Brahmana. You have seen Brahmanas doing the work of toilet cleaning. Prabhupada criticizes. Prabhupada is saying he is pulling thela and he is wearing thread and he is calling himself as a Brahmana. But in Krishna consciousness we are seeing Brahmanas, as a Brahmanas we are wearing thread and we are going and cleaning toilet also. So does it mean even though we are doing the act of a Shudra, the work of a Shudra, but does it mean that we have become Shudra? That is what one has to understand. There is no difference in cleaning toilet, in cleaning the temple, or one acting as a manager. So this is called Devi Varnashrama. In normal Varnashrama we are seeing Grahasthas were supposed to only make a living, earn for themselves, earn for others. Of course, some important principles are there, but otherwise, just by helping them, they would advance. Shudra is also like that. Just by helping all other members, they would advance. That is an ideal Varnashrama society. He doesn't have to learn Vedas. Shudra doesn't have to learn Veda at all. Just by helping all other, he will be able to advance. But Kali Yuga, everybody is like Shudra. Kalau Shudra Sambhavar. So practically we cannot divide, he is a Brahmana, he is a Vaishya, he is a Kshatriya, he is a Shudra. Isn't it? We all have to take up different roles in Krishna consciousness. Somebody has to become manager, somebody has to become preacher, somebody has to do worship of the deities, somebody has to become preacher, somebody has to go for collection, somebody has to clean, and sometimes those roles are interchanged also. Isn't it? So, the whole idea is, in Kali Yuga, Everything is topsy-turvy. It is not practical in that sense to follow the Varnashrama system. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly said, Naham Vipro, na api Shudro, na Vaishya. I am none of these things. Correct? Because in Kali Yuga, we have to understand, it is filled with so many faults. So the most important principle to follow in Kali Yuga is whether you are Grahastha, whether you are Sannyasi, whether you are Brahmachari, does not matter. Grahe thako, vane thako, sada hari bole. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly gave. He did not say you are a Grahastha, you don't chant the holy name, you just work for other three, because other threes are not present. Where is that other ideal sannyasis are present? Where are ideal brahmacharis present? Where are vanaprasthas present? If those three are present and then the grahastha works for them and supports the society, then yes, he will also advance. But they themselves are not present. Where is it? So what has happened now? The grahasthas are thinking, my only business is I should only work. Isn't it? So that is not the idea. In Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, it does not matter. As a matter of which ashrama befits you, if you find that yes, you can be a sannyasi, be a sannyasi. If you can fit into brahmachari ashram, be in brahmachari ashram. If you can be in grahastha, be in grahastha ashram. But in all these ashramas, they are all, most important thing is glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chant the holy name of the Lord. Now this is not like an ideal Vedic society where just by helping the other three sections of the society, grahasthas would advance. In Kali Yuga, whether it is brahmachari, whether it is grahastha, whether it is vanaprastha, everybody's business is they should all glorify, chant the holy name of the Lord. That is what Bhagavata says. Bhagavata has also in that sense placed Krishna consciousness even above the Varnashrama system. Suta Goswami says, it is the duty of every human being. He doesn't say it's only the duty of Grahastha, it's the duty of only sannyasis, brahmacharis and vanaprasthas alone, and not of Grahasthas. He says it is everyone's duty to chant and glorify the Supreme Lord. Because Kali Yuga, that is the Dharma. Yagna Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Sumedashaha. The only means of liberation in Kali Yuga is to chant and glorify the Supreme Lord. So there are very beautiful verses. In last class, few of those verses we heard. Very interesting verses you will find. We heard this verse, Dharmasya hi apavargasya na artho arthaya upakalpate na arthasya dharma ikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Dharma, what we understand is our occupational duty. Just like Kshatriya Dharma or Brahmana Dharma or Brahmachari Dharma, Vanaprastha, everybody has their own Dharma, right? We all know. Brahmachari has his Dharma, Brahmana has his Dharma. So these are called as occupational Dharma, occupational duties. So what are these occupational duties meant for? Suppose somebody is doing business, somebody is acting as a Brahmana, working as a Brahmana, somebody is acting as a Kshatriya, somebody is a Brahmachari, somebody is a Sannyasi. What are all these occupational duties meant for? All carrying out your occupational duty is meant for liberation. So even a Grahastha, if he is doing his duties of Grahastha properly, it is all meant for liberation. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. All occupational duties are required to be carried out not for economic development, they are all meant for apavargasya. Pavarga means material world, apavarga means spiritual life or liberation from this world. So all occupational duties are meant for apavargasya, for liberation, for ultimate liberation. Then it further clarifies. Then somebody will think, but at least some economic development is required, all those things are required. So Prabhupada explains, economic development is a byproduct. It is not the aim of carrying out your occupational duties. So it very clearly says, na artho arthaya upakalpate. Dharma, carrying out your occupational duty, is not meant for economical development. Na artha upakalpate. Don't think it is meant for economic development. They should never be carried out for economic development. So then what happens, as Prabhupada explains, by performing your dharma properly, automatically what will happen? Economic development will come. It is not meant for that. You don't try for that, but economic development will happen. Then what happens? Suppose if there is money available, everything is available, artha is available, money is available. Then what should be done? Then it says, na arthasya dharma ekantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Those who are trying to go towards liberation, dharma ekantasya, they should not utilize artha for kama, for satisfying their desires. So very nicely Prabhupada translates this. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gains. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in ultimate occupational service, dharma ekantasya, ultimate occupational service, should never use material gains to cultivate sense gratification. Because when we are occupied for ultimate gain, these material gains will automatically come. Say for example, now we are working in Krishna consciousness. Money is coming, money will come, artha will come. So artha should not be utilized for sense gratification. Artha should be utilized for service of Krishna. Then next it says, so ultimate occupation, we should not utilize material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Then somebody may wonder, then does it mean we don't have to take care of our necessities of life? So Vedas further says, Sutta Goswami further says, it is required. But kamasya nendriya preetir, all our desires, whatever different desires we have, it should not be for indriya preeti, that should not be for sense gratification. Labho jiveta yavata. How much we require for sustaining the bare necessities of our life, only that much we should try to satisfy our senses, not more than that. Then what else our desire should be utilized for? We have so many desires, we are very active, we want to work hard. If I don't work hard for sense gratification, what should I work hard for? What should I try to satisfy desire for? So then it says, Jivasya tattva jignasa nartho yasceha karma bihi. Life's desire should not be utilized for karma bihi, for fruitive activities. They should be utilized for tattva jignasa, for searching out ultimate truth, tattva jignasa. Yesterday I had gone for one program. That program was called Jignasa. See, so there I gave a class that actual real jignasa is not the jignasa which we are thinking, isn't it? So they are making some, scientific experiments, making children curious about science, and that they are calling it as jignasa. Real science is spiritual science. Ultimate jignasa is jignasa about spiritual truth. So that should be our life's goal. Jivasya tattva jignasa. Next, Sutta Goswami explains, so Jivasya tattva jignasa, we have to think about tattva, absolute truth. And then he describes what is that absolute truth. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Bhagavan is the ultimate in that truth. Last phase of understanding the absolute truth is Bhagavan understanding. And then how to understand that tattva? So first he describes that everybody has to be occupied. In today's conversation also we were seeing the leadership business is to see that nobody is idle. We should be we should have an ideal life, not idle life. Isn't it? Otherwise it will become devil's workshop. So everybody has to be occupied. Occupation is there, but what should the occupation be? That very nicely Suta Goswami has described. So everything after describing that, he says, Jivasya Tattva Jignasa, that should be the goal of life. And what is that Tattva? Next he describes that. That Tattva is that Bhagavan understanding. Next he explains, what is the qualification to understand that Bhagavan? What is required? What practice is required? One is qualification, another is what practice you should take up. Should you take to Jnana? Should you take to yoga? What process you should adopt? And what qualification do you require? Is it required one has to be very, very shrewd, very intelligent, hard-working? What kind of qualification is expected? So then he explains, Tat Shraddha Dhana Munayo. Prabhupada explains Shraddha Dhana means very eager to understand the absolute truth. That is the only qualification required. Attentively, one should be eager. Tat Shraddha Dhana Munayo. And then, what he should be equipped with? Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Shruta Grahitaya. He should practice the process of bhakti, which has automatically Jnana and Vairagya are automatically there. He doesn't have to separately cultivate them. And how one should practice devotional service? By his concocted method? No. Shruta Grahitaya, as it has come down in Parampara, as given in authorized principles. In that way when one practice, then Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam, then he will see that Tattva, he will see that absolute truth. Then, in the next shloka, Suta Goswami says, now this Bhaktaya, practicing bhakti, understanding that absolute truth, it is applicable for every human being. Not only for Brahmana, not only for sannyasis, not only for brahmacharis or vanaprastha. He says, Ataha Pumbir Dvijashreshtha Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanustistasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. This Haritoshanam, satisfaction of the Lord, is done by all the four Varnas and all the four ashramas. So Varnashrama actually is meant for satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. After saying this, he says, he gives the final conclusion. Conclusion he gives, Tasmad, therefore. So after describing all these things, he gives a final conclusion. So, for the humanity, what is the best principle? So he says, Tasmad, therefore, Ekena Manasa, with one pointed attention, Bhagavan Satvatampati, that Bhagavan, who is the protector of his devotees, Satvatampati means, who is the protector of his devotees. What one should do? Shrotavyaha, one should hear about. Kirtitavyascha, one should glorify. Dhyeyaha, one should meditate or remember. Pujyascha nityada, every day one should hear about, one should glorify, one should meditate, think about, and one should worship. Whom? Bhagavan Satvatampati, the Supreme Lord who is the protector of devotees. In the purport, Prabhupada very clearly says that earlier Suta Goswami described Varnashrama now he is saying, what should be the work of that people in Varnashrama? This is the most important principle. Whether one is Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi should also hear about, worship, glorify, remember. Grahastha should also do, Shudra should also do. Anybody in all these 4 Varnashramas, one should carry out this most important instruction which is given by Suta Goswami in Bhagavatam. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains this very wonderfully. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate goal of life, right? That is how it was described. Jivasya Tattva Jignasa. That is the ultimate goal of our life. It must be carried out by all means. If that is the ultimate goal of our life, then that goal must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned caste and order of life, see, this is very important. In any one of the above mentioned caste and orders of life, the 4 processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshipping are general occupation. Apart from their specific occupation, as a Grahastha, I have some duties. I have to maintain other 3 orders of life. I have to look after my family. I have to look after my children. Isn't it? Apart from my specific duty, these are the general occupation for everyone. This is what one should understand. So, Prabhupada is in fact saying, without these principles of life, no one can exist. If you don't glorify the Supreme Lord in our society, we will glorify somebody else. Just like few days back I was hearing, somebody was telling about our Prime Minister. So big mail somebody has written about how our Prime Minister is, big glorification. Just like in Bhagavatam, there is glorification of the Supreme Lord. So how he is making economic progress, how he is meeting so many foreign countries, and there's so many. One big mail about the works carried out by Prime Minister. So if we don't glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we will end up glorifying some leaders of the society, some sportsmen in the society, some film star in the society. Glorification is must. People have to glorify. Isn't it? Just like yesterday when I went for the program, everyone was scratching each other's back. So they all call big Swamijis also from different places they have come. And you can imagine, he is a head of a big society. He is a head of one spiritual society. And he is glorifying mundane work being carried out by some social person. That yes, this is the requirement of today. So we will end up glorifying only these things, mundane things. Isn't it? So glorification is going to be there. Don't think that glorification will stop. So either we will glorify the Supreme Lord or we will glorify the products of Maya. These are all products of Maya. Either it is socialism, nationalism, altruism, all these are products of Maya. Big names, only bewilderment. Just like few days back we were reading in, I think in Prabhupada's conversation, or we were hearing, Prabhupada very clearly says, what is so-called United Nations? It's a bunch of barking dogs. Prabhupada was very clear about his concepts. So, further Prabhupada explains this. No one can exist without these 4 principles. These are general principles. In a society, we hear about, either we hear about other so-called great personalities, other leaders, isn't it? Or we glorify them after hearing about them, we glorify them, and practically sometimes we worship them also. Isn't it? You'll find many statues being worshipped practically. And sometimes when such people come, with lot of garlands and with lot of pomp, such worships are going on. So that there is no doubt about. Activities of the living being involve engagement in these 4 principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within very short time if he is glorified truly or falsely in daily newspaper. Correct? So this glorification we are hearing. Every day when we read newspaper, somebody's glorification we are hearing. So glorification and hearing about these people, worshipping these people, remembering these people, all these things are going on. Sometimes political leaders of particular party also advertise by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such false propaganda by false glorification of unqualified person cannot bring about any good. Glorifying such people, hearing about such people, worshipping such people cannot bring about any good in the society. Neither for those people, neither for those people who are glorifying, who are hearing about them. So, there may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, no permanent effect. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifest before us. Real object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these 4 important principles of remembering, glorifying, hearing about and worshipping should be done by all classes of men, but the object of that worship should be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is what we can say. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki